Booktube, Science Fiction Reads here with yet another book haul. Bit of an impromptu book haul. I didn't expect to film it this early. I'm actually waiting for a couple books in the mail, but I got free time and I was eager to make a video. So I'll go through these in no particular order. An interesting one right from the start here, Where the Evil Dwells by Simak. I don't think he did a lot of fantasy. And the reviews for this are not great, but it was 25 cents. So I figured I'd check it out. I mean, a lot of his stuff is science fantasy anyways, so I don't know much about it, but it should be interesting. Next up, something I've always wanted to read, and I finally found a copy for practically nothing. William Golding, Lord of the Flies. One of those classics that I feel like I need to read. Most of these came from thrift stores, so I got a handful of these for like $3 or $4. An author I have not read, I have Brother Assassin by Fred Saberhagen. Some trippy old art there. Berserker Blue Death. I know he's well known for, I think, his sword trilogies, which I have both trilogies, nice hardcover. And then Saberhagen, My Best. So obviously short story collection, but I think he's also known for the Berserker series as well, which I know very little about, but I'm starting to collect a decent amount of his books. Here's one I'm excited for. Gary Jennings' Aztec Autumn, which is historical fiction, the Aztecs coming in contact with the Spanish. Last year, probably the best book I read last year was the first novel, which got me very interested in historical fiction and very interested in the Aztec culture. So I've been looking out for a copy of this. I wouldn't mind a matching hardcover, but this was like $3, so I'm happy to have that. I got a random Poul Anderson here, Starfarers. I don't know much about that because there's not much of a blurb. So I have a growing Poul Anderson collection, and I have not read a lot by him. I've liked what I read, except for Star Fox, Voyage of the Star Fox or something. I didn't care for that one, but then that was the first I read of his, and it was years ago. I've read a few other things, and I've enjoyed those. I've been looking for this for a while. This is Charles Strauss, Neptune's Brood. This is loosely connected to Saturn's Children, and which has a terrible cover. This was hard sci-fi, cyberpunk, but it was, I know it was modeled after Heinlein's style, but I have not read any Heinlein, despite having quite a collection of his books. So this was kind of styled after some of his stuff. And I enjoyed it, but it was needlessly complicated. And I know this takes place in the future. And the thing that's interesting about these and that appealed to me is they take place a couple of hundred years in the future in the solar system, but at least this one does. But there's no humans. These are all that's left is robots, AIs, and they've got a weird, fractured society. This was good, but it frustrated me in ways, so I only gave it a 3 out of 5 on Goodreads. This takes place, I think, years in the future in a different solar system, loosely connected. I am looking forward to reading it, but I have no interest in reading it anytime soon. But I do like Charles Strauss, good, hard science fiction. Next up, Heroes Die by Matthew Woodring Stover. Not a book or author on my radar until Bridger over at the Library Ladder made a video about this, and it sounds absolutely nuts. It is science fiction, but I think it reads as science fantasy. It says fantasy novel right on it, and the cover art would have deterred me from buying it if I had not seen a really good review about it. I think this is pretty, over 500 pages, fairly small text. I'm excited to read this. I got this off Amazon. It was only like $9. This is something I don't have high hopes of being any good. I have, how many are there here? 6. I have those 6-book series of The Dungeon by Philip Jose Farmer, except I don't think any of them are written by him. No, so there's 6 of these. It's about a character and a group of friends or whatever that they're on a quest to find the main character's missing brother in some sort of multi-leveled dungeon full of crazy monsters and all sorts of stuff. I only got this because it was at a thrift store, all 6 for $1. So here's the first one, The Dungeon, titled The Black Tower by Richard A. Lupov. Volume 2, The Dark Abyss, written by Bruce Coville. They do have cool cover art. The Valley of Thunder by Charles DeLint. Volume 4, The Lake of Fire by Robin W. Bailey. 5, The Hidden City, Charles DeLint. And 6, I believe, is the same author as the first issue, The Final Battle, Richard A. Lupov. So I got these about a week ago. I forget why they're tied to Farmer. I guess it was just an idea he had and put to a group of authors to write a story. I don't have high hopes in this because these sort of things always seem to fall flat. Great ideas, but I mean, I'm sure the story could have been told in less than 6 volumes for sure. So I don't know if I'll ever read it, but they were cheap and interesting. They'll look nice on the shelf if I had room, which I don't. Here's a book I've been looking for a while, although I'd rather have it in a small paperback so it doesn't take up so much space. A Deepness in the Sky by Werner Vinge. I think this is a first edition hardcover. I mean, the cover art is awesome. Obviously, this is a sequel to A Fire in the Deep, A Fire Upon the Deep? Fire Upon the Deep, which interestingly and strangely is a book I have started and DNF'd twice, despite it being exactly my kind of thing. I think I was sick with a cold the first time I started it, and I was a third of the way through and wasn't in the mood anymore. And I tried it again a couple years later. I don't know what happened there, but on paper, it should be exactly what I'm into, and I do remember enjoying it at the time, so that's another one I gotta tackle so that I can get to this, which also has a very interesting premise, which I forget now, but I've read about this online several times, and I want to read it. But of course, I'll read the other one first. All right, a couple randoms here. Here's a trilogy by William Horwood, The Duncton Chronicles. This gave me, those are moles, this gave me serious Redwall vibes. And I read the Redwall books by Brian Jakes years ago when I was a kid. And this seems similar. You've got anthropomorphized small animals with a society, but I think these are tailored more toward adults. Duncton Quest, at least the premise. I mean, I think there's some sort of like religious war elements or something. Certainly religion plays a part. So those seemed interesting, and I've seen these around before, and they were cheap, and all 3 were there, so I figured I'd buy them. So I'm hoping when I get around to these, they'll give me some Redwall vibes, although probably I'd rather read old Redwall books again. I have them all. I recently completed my childhood collection of those. Getting down to the bottom here. Oops. This is just something that was cheap and I thought might be interesting. Story of Captain Cook. Just has really nice cover art, and it was $1. So I don't read much nonfiction, but it's a beautiful illustrated book, and I am a bit of a nut for history, so. All right, we're getting near the end here. Of course, I've been talking about it last few videos. I've been I've been reading Michael Moorcock's Quorum Trilogy, which I've since finished, enjoyed it. And since I started that, I've gotten a few other things by him. The Chronicles of Quorum. So this is the 2nd trilogy of the Quorum stories, which I don't think I'll read next. I think I might read something else by Morcock and then go back to the Quorum books. This is, I like the cover art. So it's the Bull and the Spear, the Oak and the Ram, the Sword and the Stallion from 73 and 74. These three were published. This is a Berkeley edition from 78. I got this and the next one here from a local guy who sells science fiction and fantasy. So also from him I got, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, the Hawk Moon series. I don't know if that's all the Hawk Moon stories, but there's 4 in there. A Millennium edition. Spine's pretty cracked up, but they were cheap. Then I found Elric of Melniboné. I'm terrible at pronouncing things, guys. This collects, does it collect the first 3? The 3 I already have in single, 3 separate books, but this has, God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Elric stories in it, I believe, and it's in rough shape, but it was cheap. At the same thrift store, I found Elric at the End of Time, the 7th Elric book. So my Morcock collection is growing quite a bit. Last but not least, and the reason I was going to film this video later in the week is because I'm waiting for a book to arrive in the mail by Tom Toner called, maybe I'll put up a picture. Can I do that? Do I have that ability? Presumably something's there because I figured it out in editing. So there it is. The Promise of the Child by Tom Toner, which is like a distant future. If you read the synopsis, it kind of gives me culture vibes, like from Ian M. Banks, but I think it's going to be pretty out there. Space opera, hard sci-fi. Interesting characters from the sounds of it. And I came across a review of this book on YouTube. Actually, it wasn't a review, it was a interview. The author is being interviewed by a friend of his who is a booktuber, Steven, over at The Outlaw Bookseller. This is a booktuber I've never come across before, which is strange because he talks about all the old science fiction and fantasy that I collect and love, but he's far more knowledgeable than me, having sold books for decades, and he's been in the business. So I started watching through his videos and then started chatting with him, and he's really cool and really knowledgeable. I love his videos. So I'm gonna leave a link for his page in the description box. Did this picture go away? I must have made that fade away by now. Good, I figured that out. So yeah, give his channel a check because all I've been doing for the past week is just watching his videos. He's very knowledgeable and he knows or has met or interacted with a lot of the authors I tend to read and talk about and want to read. So that's another book all down. And like I said, I finished that Morcock trilogy, but I think I'm going to move on to someone else for now. And I was thinking I might give Cordwainer Smith a try next. I'm not sure if, I have a couple of his novels, or at least one. I'd have to look. I feel like probably his short stories are the best way to check him out because he's, he wrote a lot more short stories than he did novels. So that's his strength, I think. That's what he's known for. So this might be what I check out next. Either way, I think it'll be Cordwainer Smith. So I'll be back with thoughts on that sometime next week, probably. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for the subs, comments. See you next time.